Why are so many people from Canada moving to the US? I shouldn't complain because that certainly keeps us busy and other immigration lawyers, but we've definitely noticed an uptick in 2023 and 2024 of applicants from Canada looking to make a transition either temporarily or permanently to the US. Today, I'd like to talk about some of those most popular options for Canadian citizens. Hello again, my name is Charles Raether. I'm the managing partner at AmLaw Group, where we work with entrepreneurs, professionals, business people, and high net worth investors in making their transition to the US. As I mentioned earlier, we've noticed definitely an uptick in applicants from Canada. And although I can't explain what the reasons behind that are, and maybe that's really not of great interest to us, I can say what options are most available and most popular for applicants from Canada. Now, from what I've generally gathered from our discussions with our Canadian clients, a lot of people are sick of the cold weather, some people are tired of the high taxes, and others just see greater business opportunities here in the US, just considering the size of the US market compared to the Canadian market. Be that as it may, we work with our clients in any case to help them make a successful transition. And I would like to today discuss with you the most common and popular investment visa options for Canadians looking to make the transition to the US. So I would say in no particular order, but we'll go in reverse order from 3 to 1, 1 being the most popular, 3 being still popular, but maybe not quite as popular. But we can talk about the 3 most popular options from our practice working with Canadians. But again, we would probably need to have a one-on-one individual discussion with you to determine what option would be best, in fact, for you. So number 3, I would say probably is, number 3 is probably L1 visas. L1 visas are when you have a company overseas, like in Canada, and you want to open up a branch in the US. Now, the branch doesn't have to be engaged in the same business as your home country. Home country might be involved in drilling for oil, and in the US you might open up a restaurant, for example. So there's a lot of flexibility in that regard. So if you are planning to expand your operations to the US, then an L1 could in fact be a good option. Now, there are some downsides to L1s. First of all, if you are starting a new company in the US, then you only get the L1 visa initially for 1 year. So that's definitely a downside. The other downside I would say is there's relatively high requirements as to the number of employees you have to hire in the US in the first year. I would say at a minimum, if you're starting from a new business in the US, you need to hire at least 6 people within that first year. So that's a pretty steep ramp up process for clients in my experience. And therefore, you need to be pretty confident in your business plans and expectations in the US to meet some of those requirements. Number 2, I would say the second most popular and common business investment visa for Canadians is the EB-5. So as you probably know, if you've looked at some of our other videos on our channel, EB-5 is where you invest $800,000 in a business. It could be your own proprietary business, or in the vast majority of cases, you're investing in a project that's being sponsored by a regional center. And those regional centers have projects that they've vetted that meet the EB-5 criteria. It's a very passive investment for you. You're not really involved in the day-to-day operations. And in fact, those types of projects have to do with real estate development, building apartment buildings, office complexes, retail stores, etc. The holding period for those investments varies by project, so you should check out some of our other videos where we go into the EB-5 process. We go into the requirements, the holding periods, etc. But generally, it's an $800,000 investment. You've got to keep your money in there for a minimum of 2 years. I would say on average, it's closer to 3 or 4. Could be longer depending on the individual project. And then you get your green card, initially a 2-year green card, then you later get a permanent one, and then you can apply for citizenship later down the road. So I would say EB-5 is becoming increasingly popular for Canadians looking for a direct path to a green card. Now, $800,000 is not necessarily in the budget of a lot of people. And that brings us to what I would say is our number 1 visa for Canadian investors or entrepreneurs looking to move to the US. That would be the E2. The E2 is far and away, I would say, the most flexible, the easiest to apply for and receive. We've never had a denial for a Canadian client for an E2. Well, to be honest, we've never had a denial for an EB-5 for Canadians, and if I recall correctly, an L1 as well. But in any case, E2s are very easy to get. I shouldn't say very, it depends on your circumstances, but with few exceptions, quite easy to get for Canadians. It's valid initially for 5 years, so it's much better than an L1 in that regard. You can get it relatively quickly in a matter of months, as opposed to sometimes maybe years, let's say with the EB5. And the investment level is not nearly as high as for the EB5. So with the E2, you only have to invest approximately $100,000 as opposed to $800,000. And the good thing of the E2 is you could generally grow your business, invest more and more, and then convert that E2 to an EB5 and get a green card. Of course, there are other options as well for getting a green card after getting the E2. So we would need to go into those discussions and details individually with each client, because each client's situation is a little different. But in terms of the best, fastest, and most flexible way to get your foot in the U.S., get over here with your family, have an opportunity to live and work here, kids can go to school, and even your kids qualify for in-state tuition if they were to go to a government institution of higher education. They're treated like residents, just like U.S. citizens or other green card holders. So there are a lot of advantages to the E2. To decide whether it's the best route for you, please reach out to us for a consultation where we can discuss your particular plans and how to make your transition to the U.S. as successful as possible.